Hello, welcome back to A Boring Revolution, your number one news source for everything in regards to the Boring Company. I'm coming to you with an impromptu live stream Saturday night. I have finally made a bit of time. I know I have been very unreliable recently. I've not been able to make any videos, which is a shame because this channel is growing gangbuster styly. Thank you everyone who's joining us today. But just before we begin doing a little bit of talking about Las Vegas, and maybe we'll get onto Battery Day as well and the potential ramifications that has for the Boring Company, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the competition. And essentially, those are the other tunneling contractors like the Robbins Co and Heron Connect, who are the current sort of main monopoly players in the tunneling industry. The vast majority of tunneling in the world is controlled by about 4 different companies, and I think in the past I have been very unfair to those companies. I consider them to be legacy companies, and they're a bit comfortable where they are now. However, you've got to appreciate the quality of engineering that these companies have come to develop over the years, and I think I was a bit harsh on those companies. A couple of people have emailed me about this, and I just wanted to, in a way, do a bit of an apology if I have spoken wrongly about these companies. I do respect them. I do often tweet about the Robbins Co and the amazing projects that they've worked on, and a couple of other companies as well. And yeah, we shouldn't really attack people who are trying to improve their industry and trying to develop the machines that they already have. However, I still am of the opinion that the Boring Company is going to be the dominant player in the future. So, what shall we talk about today? First of all, let's see who's with us today. Hello, Joshua. Yes, well, Las Vegas has progressed very nicely over the last month or so since we last spoke about the project. As you can see, they flattened out this wall here and removed some of the steel props, and most of the ring beam has also been removed. It is really progressing very nicely. As you can see, we have jib crane in here today. This was taken about 8 or 9 days later. As you can see, further work has been undertaken on this wall. We've got formwork set out down here, bottom right hand corner. A lot of concrete is being poured. There's been some work to the ring beam. As you can see, it's been shortened here, but they've kept these there's 3 props and the knees as well. So all in all, progress at station number 1 is doing excellent. In terms of the underground station at station number 2, as you can see, our concrete planks have been going in very nicely. Work has progressed very well on the edge of this station here. As you can see, there's an excavation there, and they've infilled that with concrete. And then later on, as you can see, a lot more concrete planks have gone in. This is essentially about to be finished, hopefully at the end of next week. That is a major milestone because that project, that station can then be fitted out, ready for use in January. In terms of station number 3, again, excellent progress. Tarmac has gone down. Everything has been set out beautifully. Looks really neat and tidy. A bit of formwork in there. As you can see, our concrete dwarf walls have been finished. Looks phenomenal, doesn't it? I mean, look at that. About 10 to 12 days in between those 2 photographs. So, wow, that's all finished. The main station canopy is going to go in next, and the information points, and that's basically it. I mean, the road deck has already gone in, the tunnels. The hard work has been done. I'd say at least 90% of the project has been completed if you look at all elements and combine them together. So all in all, really great news. So yeah, general Q&A today. Love to talk about everything the Boring Company and especially a little bit about Tesla, because what a week it has been for Tesla, really, in terms of what they've been doing over the last 3 or 4 years. It's really all come together this week in terms of the actual jigsaw puzzle and how all the individual pieces come together in terms of manufacturing the batteries. Wow, the changing form factor, the tabless batteries, in terms of cooling the batteries as well. It massively changed how they're going to operate that. It's phenomenal, really phenomenal. How are they going to source materials and actually manufacture the materials as well, or process the materials in terms of the anode and the cathode. So I mean, it's just beyond what I could have ever expected. Really was. Really, what a phenomenal. The fact that the stock's gone down is just an absolute shock to me. I can't really justify that, but I mean, it's just a great buying opportunity. You can't really, nothing could have gone better, really. If you've ever been hesitating about investing more of your earnings or your savings into Tesla, I mean, the evidence is there. The production line that they've built in California, the speed of that, the efficiency, how they've integrated the Maxwell process in there is just outstanding. The power density of the new batteries, it's just phenomenal. Okay, so let's answer some questions. Hello to Charlie. Hello there. Hope you're well. Black House Brew. As always, pleasure to see you in the chat, Mr. Brew. Hey Neil, thank you for joining the channel. Hopefully you can subscribe. Please ask any questions you'd like regarding anything regards the Boring Company and a little bit of Tesla as well. Happy to answer questions on everything today. Great question. So we'll start off with this one. When do you think the Boring Company will be used by the public? So the Consumer Electronics Show was cancelled for January. I've had a look at the conference centre and seeing what events are on. There are some events, I believe, in February. There's definitely some on in March and April. So I'm thinking it will be mid to late February when they'll start letting people actually use the system. So I imagine that it will be a very limited run of vehicles to begin with. So they'll just be testing the system with actual passengers. Prior to that, they will have calibrated the system purely with vehicles, maybe weighted vehicles as well, just to give it that realist factor in terms of loading. They'll run that up to the full capacity of 4,200 passengers per hour. So to do that, they'll probably be using the full cohort of vehicles. I believe it was 64 vehicles that they were going to use, but I anticipate that on any given hour there'll probably be a maximum of around less than 40 vehicles per shift. Depends how many times they bring them in and out of the system. But yeah, so if you are in Las Vegas in February, maybe early March, you should be able to get on the system and give it a test, and it'll be free of charge as well. There'll be no fees. There are various events going on at the Las Vegas Convention Center, so get yourself down there if you can. In terms of Station 1 at Las Vegas, I still don't know what's going on. I'm desperately searching for photographs of Station number 1 in Las Vegas. We have the webcam, but it's pointed in the wrong direction. It's actually pointed at the launch pit, which is now the ramp. I'm hoping that at some point someone either gets a drone in there or manages to get actually on or into the station and take some photographs. It'll probably look very similar to Station number 3 in terms of progress at this very moment in time. So that's great. Hey Johnny, nice to see you as always. Mr. Reliable, always here, even on a Saturday night. Really sorry everyone if you've just joined the stream. I've just been struggling with so many things at the moment. Nothing too serious, just in terms of workload and various things in terms of family, and I'm also looking to move. I almost bought a property in Preston last week at auction, but unfortunately it went for the price above a price that I was willing to pay. I'm looking to rent this apartment out and move somewhere else, because I think that I can get a really good kind of return on investment for this apartment in terms of rental income. So once I buy this next property, I'll actually own 4 properties, so that's phenomenal. Although really what I should have done is put all that money into Tesla and then just held it there. That would have been a better investment. But hey, we all get to our end goals one way or another. So compare the throughput with traditional subway or bus. So it depends what system you want me to compare it to. A good system to compare it to would be one that's here where I live. So the Manchester Metrolink. The Manchester Metrolink is reasonably big. I believe it's over around 60 miles in length, total route length here in Manchester, in Greater Manchester. The top speed of that system is only 50 miles per hour. It is trams, but the throughput is just under 7,000 per hour. Now, it's closer to 6,000 per hour. So, in comparison to the system, the tram system in Manchester, which is essentially the UK's 3rd largest city, this system here in Las Vegas is not that far off it. With an actual longer length of tunnel and larger autonomous electric vehicles, like actually purpose-built electric vehicles for a specific system, and a bit of experience running a system, I believe the Boring company can easily achieve 15 to 20,000 throughput per passenger per hour if they have at least 3 or 4 miles of tunnel. So in terms of a traditional sort of tram system or Metrolink system here in the UK, it's very comparable. It's actually got more throughput than the Glasgow Underground system. In terms of things like the New York Underground, obviously it's miles behind that. They've got throughputs, I'd imagine, well over 100,000 passengers per hour if you compare all the routes. But they have a lot of route miles, a lot of trams, and remember, people are really packed in there, standing up. It's not comfortable. The trains on the New York Underground are fairly slow. I believe they average around 17 to 19 miles per hour. So in the future, the Boring company should, with a system comparable in length to the New York Underground, should be able to easily outdo it in terms of throughput per hour. I think well in excess of 120,000 passengers per hour if it has the same route length as the New York Underground and it has thousands of vehicles, so maybe around 5,000 autonomous electric vehicles. I hope that answered your question, Fan Bean. But to get there, you've got to build at scale. If you're not building at scale, like the system in Las Vegas is only 0.827 miles long, and you've got 2 tunnels, so it's like 1.64 miles or 1.65 miles. So you're not really going to be able to achieve maximum throughput with that, size of system. No, but there is a project that's likely to get approval in California at the Ontario airport. And I forget where it's linking to. It's got a really crazy name. It's Cucamonga or somewhere north of the airport. So it looks like approval will be agreed in the next sort of 6 months for that project, hopefully. They've also got 2 extension projects in Las Vegas. So they're extending the system to the Wynn Hotel and Casino, which is, I believe, just off the top of my head, I believe it's under 900 metres, that tunnel. And then they're also extending it to Resorts World, which is a brand new casino opposite the convention centre in Las Vegas. That's around 700, 800 metres, I believe, that system. But that's just a single tunnel. So the throughput of that is going to be very low, probably less than 1,000 passengers per hour. In terms of other projects that are currently being looked at, there's a Washington DC to Baltimore project, which should have an insane throughput. That is the perfect kind of project for proving the throughput. The project in Chicago has been cancelled, essentially. It's not been mentioned, and Mayor Lightfoot doesn't really want it. In terms of anything else, there's the dugout loop in California, going to the baseball stadium and linking it up to the Metrolink in LA. That potentially we could hear some news on that again around summertime next year. So there are some plans, Larry, for an extension that runs to the airport, so to McCarran International Airport, and potentially to the new American football stadium for the Raiders. That looks very promising. There's also links to casinos that are along the main strip. That is likely to become to be moved into sort of planning process, maybe late next year. But it remains to be seen how they will do that, whether they will do it in stages or whether they will agree a collective deal with all the casinos and all the hotel owners along the strip, and then they all put in, say, 7% of the total cost, and then the Boeing company builds it for them with interlinks and underground stations, or maybe ramps into the adjoining car parks. Yeah, so I think the side wheels idea was scrapped. The main reason for that was that they basically just wanted any Tesla vehicle and any electric vehicle, or BEV, to be able to utilize the system, and you don't really need those those guidance wheels, alignment wheels. The vehicle should be able to guide itself along the tunnel, and there should be markings on the walls of the tunnel and the road deck when there's an upcoming corner, or even better than that, the vehicles will know, because they know where they are in the system, that there is a corner coming up and they need to reduce the speed to 90 miles per hour, 80 miles per hour, and all the corners will be banked anyway. So it's not the system will be built so that vehicles can continuously move through that system very close together, possibly in platoons at very, very high speeds, in excess of what are on motorways and expressways in America and Canada and Europe, and especially here in the UK. So the speed limit in the UK is around 70 miles an hour, but most people, are cruising around 75, 78 miles per hour, because they can get away with that. So for the Boeing company, it'll be much higher than that. It'll be over 100 miles per hour in the vast majority of the tunnels, and in some parts it'll be closer to 155 miles per hour. Yeah. The autopilot should work in its current form now in a Boeing company tunnel, because it's 10 times more difficult to drive on the surface with all of those edge cases and all the different vehicles and cyclists and buses and all the different lanes merging. It is so complicated when you think about it. Imagine if you were like a 10-year-old child and you were told to drive through the middle of London in a go-kart. You'd struggle so much, because it's just so difficult. So many different things are happening all around you. And in a tunnel, if the Boeing company designs it correctly, it should be so simple. It should just be a case of, you drive along and you just make sure that when you need to take a turn in, that you're warned well in advance, and you just keep to the left or you keep to the right, and then that's That's the only thing you need to know, and you just need to make sure you maintain a distance, 150, 200 meters between some vehicles, and if you need to, you join the platoon, and then you keep a distance of 600 millimeters. So it shouldn't be. Hey Anton, hope you're well, my friend. Thank you for joining the stream. Remember to thumbs up. Yes, David, we should thumbs up. Appreciate that. Haha. Yeah, you could do. You know what? I speak very slow, so 2x is probably like a normal talking speed for me. But I recommend maybe 1.25 is probably the better speed. Yeah, good question. Thank you, Mark. Really like that question. We got a picture, yeah. Let's go back to that. I like that. It's better for contrast. I was looking at the feasibility of a tunnel from Las Vegas to California. A car would have to recharge halfway with putting a sled, or could... What are your thoughts? Ooh, no, incorrect. Although probably making some... are you assuming that it's travelling at maximum speed all the way? I'm trying to work out off the top of my head how far away it is. I think it's less than 100 miles from maybe slightly more LA to Las Vegas. Especially after battery day, and especially with some of the vehicles that Tesla currently have, so like the long range P100D model, Tesla Model S, Model X as well, the 100D, and even the rear wheel drive and long range Model 3 and Model Y. They should be able to get from one end to the other without recharging. What would help drastically with that, and is something that I'm a key proponent of, is that we run vehicles in platoons. I don't know if you've seen my previous video, but I believe that the most efficient system would run platoons of 7 vehicles. So you've got 7 vehicles stacked up. The gap in between the vehicles, yeah, is around 600 millimeters. So what would that be in inches? 30 inches. Doesn't need to be any less than that, and it doesn't need to be any more than that. And that, the efficiency, the air drag on the vehicles will be minimized greatly. Excuse me. I can feel a cough coming on. Sometimes I get a dry throat when I'm speaking. But yeah, if they run in platoons, they should be able to make it. I think it's less than 120 miles, so I can't see why they wouldn't be able to make it, as long as they've got like an 80-90% charge when they go into the tunnel. And obviously, you could theoretically reduce the speed to increase the range as well, but I don't like that. I want to see vehicles going from LA to Las Vegas at least 128 miles per hour, if not much more, in around 140, 145, maybe even 150 miles per hour. I'm having second thoughts about the 155 miles per hour, because I think that's a lot of wear and tear on a vehicle's tires. And I just think as well, if you've got vehicles in a system doing 155 miles per hour, it does create some problems in terms of vehicles that are merging into the system. So if I was going to model the system, I would keep the speeds between sort of 120, 125 and 140 miles per hour, in that kind of band. I think that would be a lot more efficient, probably nearer the 128 miles per hour. I think that is the perfect speed for the system, because remember, when vehicles are coming down the on-ramps and they have to merge in, they're going to have to get up to speed, and when they get to the bottom of that ramp, they need to be going at least 110, 120 miles per hour, which could be quite difficult if the ramp is only, 350, 450 meters long, because you don't want to be building it any longer than that, because then it becomes cost prohibitive. Mississauga. I don't know what you're talking about. Rancho Cucamonga, that's it. Thank you. Bonus points for Larry. Rancho Cucamonga. What a name that is. I wonder if there's a reason why it's called Rancho. Rancho Cucamonga. Rancho probably means something. My Spanish is not great. What they need, and this is just me being frank and honest with you, they need a specific vehicle for the Boeing company system, an autonomous electric vehicle or a pod. And it needs to seat, at the very least, 8 people, very minimum. Probably more. I'd prefer if it was 10 to 12 people. The advantages that you get of having 12 people in a vehicle and having, and you can make the vehicle up, 7 meters long if you really, really, really need to. You probably don't even need to make it 7 meters long. You can easily fit lots of seats in there. People can have lots of space, social distancing, and you could put a huge battery pack in that vehicle. Look at the new form factor of the batteries for Tesla now. So it's 4680. Power density is increased dramatically, and the actual energy inside the battery. Thermal management is no longer an issue as well. You could easily have a 300 kilowatt hour battery in a purpose-built Boeing company autonomous electric vehicle, AEV. That would easily, do somewhere close to 400 miles, even when you're running it at very high speeds, if you have platoons and if you have very efficient motors and you make it a very lightweight vehicle, because you're not going to need things like airbags and steering wheels and dashboards and things like that. You can really go back to bare bones and redesign it as the most perfect minibus ever conceived. And if you could do that, your profit margins, your efficiency, your throughput of the system, it goes to the moon. Absolutely goes to the moon. Look at what Tesla did. They went back to first principles with the battery. They looked at every single element, redesigned it from scratch. This is what they've come up with. Battery Day is the absolute pinnacle of what they can achieve with technology at this current moment in time. That is what the Boeing company and Tesla should do for an autonomous electric vehicle. And if they do that, gross margin per journey could be in excess of 55% easily. So just think about that. Every time you move someone, over half of the fare goes into your coffers as pure profit. Yeah, absolutely agree. Absolutely, it's an absolute game changer. It's the way I've described it on Twitter to some people is the 2170 cell is a Sega Mega Drive, and the 4680 cell is like a PS5. Yeah, it's just chalk and cheese. The difference in terms of performance is you just can't compare it, especially in terms of how the cell is put together, the cost of that cell, the speed which you can manufacture it, the supply, the actual supply of materials, and the logistics of moving those materials has been cut down insane amounts, but by like 80%. You're not having to ship it from China to Taiwan, then back to the US, and then back to China. It's just so much more efficient in every way in terms of the cathode and the anode production. That's I believe a Robbins cut ahead. There's a lot of room in this tunnel, even when you put quite a big autonomous electric vehicle in. And remember, you'll have ventilation shafts every 600 to 700 meters. So any kind of build up of high pressure air, as soon as you get to a ventilation shaft, it'll just it'll go up there at very, very high speeds. So what you need to do is you need to be behind the vehicle and fairly close to them, and that creates like a low pressure area, and that almost sucks you into the car in front, and it improves efficiency massively. When they've run trials for platoons for lorries, the efficiencies that they've been able to achieve, even with a 10-foot gap in between the semi trucks, massive improvement in efficiency, well in excess of 10% improvement, well in excess. So imagine if you were able to move those vehicles closer. You know that vehicles are not going to need to stop inside the tunnel because you control everything. You control the entire environment. There's no weather, there's no ice. All the vehicles are your vehicles that you've manufactured. There's no blowouts. There's no failed motors. All the problems that you associate with a motorway, 99.95% of them have gone overnight. So that efficiency, if you can drive within 600 millimeters or 60 centimeters or 2 foot of the car in front of you, the efficiency is insanely better. What is worth noting as well, which could be an issue with the LA to Las Vegas potential tunnel in the future, and I think it's going to be about 2 years away from a potential start, maybe 18 months if they do decide to do that. I think they will do that after they've linked up the airport and all the hotels on the strip. There is a company called Brightline, and they run a very efficient and very well marketed train service in Florida. They have got the rights to run a train from LA to Las Vegas. They actually own some existing track that runs along that route, and potentially they could be running trains at 185 miles per hour along that route. We're talking very big trains, around 260 meters in length. That is very competitive, and that could hurt the Boeing company if they build it. But based on what I know, I think they're going to be at least 3 or 4 years, especially after this pandemic. They are 3 to 4 years away from starting that project. So if the Boeing company could beat them to it and undercut them on fares, they may decide not to go ahead with the project. But even if they do build it, it's always worth having that extra capacity. Maybe if you're a Tesla owner and you want to go to Las Vegas and do a bit of gambling, maybe you could pay, $15, $20, and you could use that tunnel, use it on autopilot, and it'll take you along there, 128 miles an hour, and it'll be nice for you because you've got your car in Las Vegas, and you don't need to worry about getting to the train station and then getting an Uber from the train station to your hotel in Las Vegas. Yeah, platooning is a big efficiency gains. Check out my last video, and well worth watching that. Well worth watching. I just think 155 miles per hour causes too much wear and tear on the tyres. I mean, maybe they could run some trials and see it. And also, in terms of merging vehicles into the system, the more I've had to think about this, the more I think they should reduce the speed. Not excessively. Maybe 135 miles per hour top speed, 140 miles per hour top speed. They need to look at it and determine what is the best from an efficiency standpoint. Because if you're traveling faster, you're going to be exerting more energy, which means the cost is going to have to be passed on to the passenger. But if you're buying your electricity for 4 cents per kilowatt per kilowatt hour, then that's just, it doesn't really matter too much. So, swings and roundabouts. Rancho means ranch, yeah. I think it was kind of obvious, and I should have said that. Fair enough. Yeah. It needs to be luxurious. You need to have a nice big seat. You need to have lots of leg room. You need to have space, to look around. It needs to be 10 times better than any other minibus ever manufactured. It needs to be something special. Maybe it has touch screens in front of you, and you could watch a movie or something like that. It needs to be. It just needs to be built from the ground up for the Boeing company, rather than them coming in and saying, "Oh, here's a Model X. Let's convert it for the system," or "Here's a Model S." Well, it's not quite fit. It's going to work, but it's not quite fit for purpose. You're making something that shouldn't be in there. You're making it trying to work, and that's not the best way of doing things. Yes. So I'm in conversation with someone at the moment who's got a lot of tunneling experience. And just to clarify, I have never worked in the tunneling industry. I have never worked in a tunnel. I have studied the concepts of tunnel boring at university. My experience is in the water industry. in building large multi-story residential buildings, building a couple of schools, and converting a grade 2 listed building here in Manchester near Stockport. So my experience is not in this area. However, I can, based on what I've learned at university and based on the things that I've read about, I can apply my knowledge to the industry. There are some issues with hexagonal segments, quite big issues. However, in a straight line, like this tunnel that we see in front of us, it cannot be beaten. Especially when you've got an automated system of assembling the segments. I have a solution for that, which I'm going to present in a future video. But basically, I think that the Boring Company could potentially use a hybrid TBM that uses both the hexagonal segments and also the rectangular segments, or the trapezoid style segments. I'm going to produce a whole video on that and explain to you how that potentially could work and what are the benefits of doing it like that. Because in the corners, even very, very gradual corners, hexagonal segments have some issues, and if you're constantly having to pack out the segments, it reduces the efficiency greatly, and you can also get significant water ingress and potentially even failure of the tunnel lining if you don't do things correctly. So all those things can be eliminated if we transition to another style of segment for a little while. I mean, we're not talking about the entire length of the tunnel. We're talking maybe 5 to 10% of the tunnel could be rectangular segments, and then the other 90% could be hexagonal segments. That's the idea anyway. I am discussing it with someone, and I'm going to propose to them potentially this might be a solution, but it's never been done before, and there might be something that I don't know which makes this unviable, basically. Yeah. If they were running in platoons and they were running at maybe 100 miles per hour potentially, and they had a very lightweight vehicle, I think in the real world though, because remember these vehicles will be using the surface roads as well, it will be somewhere closer to 400 to 500 miles with a 300 kilowatt hour battery. Yes. I think that's the best question today. Oh, it's more of a statement really, but I like it. It's a really great shame what we've done to some of our countryside and some of our cities. And even now here in the UK, the UK government is spending £27 billion over the next 6 or 7 years? Let's say 7 years, 27 billion over the next 7 years on various road schemes. They're adding essentially a flyover to the motorway that's just down the road from me, and that flyover, you end up with around about 600 meters of roadway, maybe a bit more actually. Let's say about 1.2 kilometers, because you've got an inbound and outbound lane. That's costing nearly £300 million. So I mean, that's just insane. The project in Las Vegas is costing under $51 million. So it just goes to show how wasteful it can be. There's got to be a better way of doing things, and we've got to build more tunnels, and we've got to get the price of tunnels down, just like we've got the price of batteries down 56% from what was already a very competitive level. We should be able to get the costs of tunnelling down at least 45% over the next decade. At least 45%. It's a tough one, because I think Tesla have moved away from that approach. I know NIO are really pushing the battery swapping concept, and they have their own patents and they have their own battery swap stations, which look good, but they actually have to be manned by, I believe, 2 people. I think with the new battery cells, the 4680 cells, with the new chemistry, with the Maxwell dry electrode system, the fact that you don't need to use drying ovens, and the fact there's no solvent in there, they potentially could increase the charging rate by another 50%. So I just don't think you need battery swapping. But I mean, I could be convinced on that one because I think the idea makes sense in my head. But then the idea of taking something out all the time and that wear and tear, that I need to learn a bit more about how they ensure that's safe. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to just do another 5 or 6 questions, guys, and then I'm going to end the live stream. So if you've got a really good question, drop it in now. I'm going to try and rush my way through this. Thank you, Anton, for the constant questions. I really appreciate that, and helping everyone out in the comment stream. That's really helpful. Appreciate that. Hope to see you on future live streams. Yeah, and it's so hot. It's so hot in Las Vegas, especially at the wrong time of year. You can easily get very dehydrated, and especially when everything's so far apart. Sometimes it's not easy. Yeah, if you go on the Boring Company website, they recently, in the last sort of 6 months, added a section talking about freight and moving freight in tunnels. And just think about that, potentially how that could revolutionise how we move packages in and around a city or a town. Potentially, that could disrupt someone like Amazon or Walmart. Potentially, Amazon's obviously way ahead, but potentially if they could scale that, maybe they could have things delivered autonomously, and that would potentially be a huge disruptor for Amazon. Hence why Amazon have bought Zoox and are, investing in Rivian and various other things, because they want to really, protect themselves against the potential influx of freight, so competition from Tesla, because Tesla could really do some damage to Amazon in the next 10 years if they get their act together. Well, I think at the moment Tesla is they focused on too many different things at the moment, Tesla, and I know they're trying to change the world and cut CO2 emissions, but they need to be a bit more focused. What they do is awesome, but they could do those things quicker if they had a bit more focus. Yeah, it'd probably be a bit more like, when you go to the airport and they're removing the luggage from the plane, and they have those kind of, they look like trains on wheels. It'd be something maybe like a much bigger version of that, potentially with up to 40 trailers. And you wouldn't need to do high speeds. You could run it through the system at 60 miles per hour, maybe slightly more, 70 miles an hour. That would be extremely efficient, especially if it was autonomous. Yeah, it's huge. I used to work in a convention centre in Manchester, so I worked there. I was self-employed. I worked there and I did various jobs for them in terms of setting out the various conventions that they were running, and it was a good job actually, because I only need to work there 3.5-4 days a week, sometimes even less than that, and I could work whatever hours I wanted, and the pay was just amazing considering how easy it was. And we had a really big convention centre, but compared to the Las Vegas Convention Centre, it's like less than a third the size the Manchester Convention Centre. It's absolutely immense. Yeah, definitely. It swings and roundabouts, because if you want to get a better throughput, you need more speed, but the more speed you put in, the less efficient the system is. Although it's not actually that different between sort of 80 and 100 miles per hour. When you go from 100 miles per hour to 155 miles per hour, the energy consumption is just drastically more. Yes, good question. So let me show you this picture. So kindly, someone emailed me, and this is from in between Las Vegas and LA. This is their test site. So we know they're using these trapezoid style segments, Look pretty standard. There's nothing really different about them compared to what Robins are using or Heron Connect. But there's something going on there. They're clearly testing something. The Proofrock machine is constantly moving around. There's something going on. I don't know. I think they're just doing some calibration and testing with the machine. I think there's going to be a major redesign of that machine, and potentially we could see the move to a hybrid machine that use both hexagonal segments and rectangular segments. Yeah. I mean, the Model X platform is not actually that bad, but they need to remove the dashboard and the steering wheel, and they need to change the layout inside of the actual seating. Maybe go for more bench style seating. I think that could work, but again, you're kind of limited to maybe 6, maybe 7 passengers. And I think that you could just do so much more and have so much more space with a purpose-built autonomous electric vehicle. Yeah, definitely. And I've got some big ideas for how they can modify the TBM to use hexagonal and potentially other segments as well. So you basically, the best thing about these segments that are in this picture here is that they're really convenient when you're going round a corner, especially a tight corner, because you can build those segments to the exact path of your TBM. You can pre-build them. So that's great for corners, but on straight sections, hexagonal just kicks its ass because you've got that continuous mining, and you can adjust that as well. I don't think the technology that they're using for current hexagonal TBMs is actually that good. I think that it's been explored, hexagonal segments, but there's not really been that investment into R&D. There's not really been that much innovation, but the majority of innovation is into the standard segments, like the ones that we see here in front of us now. I disagree. I've changed my opinion on this. When it comes to robo-taxis, when it comes to vehicles that are moving multiple people all day long, remember, potentially you could have a vehicle that's operational over 16 hours a day. When you take into account charging and things like that, and maybe some downtime and quiet periods, you could have a vehicle that's operational 16 hours a day. So if you end up spending $80,000 to build that vehicle and convert it for the Boeing company system, that vehicle will pay for itself in under 2.5 years. So you've got a payoff period of 2.5 years, probably less than that actually, and then the next 5 or 6 years, that machine is making you, or that vehicle is making you, pure profit. And like I say, if you're running vehicles in platoons and you're using cheap electricity via solar or wind, you could easily have a 55% gross margin on every ticket you sell to a passenger. I mean, you just can't go wrong with that. You cannot go wrong with that. So even if they're only producing 25,000, 30,000 vehicles per year, maybe even less than that, they can still make a good profit on it. And even if it was making a slight loss, all the other vehicles in the Tesla fleet have got huge gross margins, so you could probably accept those losses if you're making a lot of money in other things. But the mission of Tesla is to progress the world. Where am I going with this? It's to progress the world into a more sustainable form of energy use. I forget the exact phrasing that they use. Progress the world's progress in sustainable energy, something along those lines. So if they are selling vehicles for a very, very small loss, maybe 2 to 3% for the Boeing company, and that Boeing company is saving lots and lots of greenhouse gases from going into the atmosphere, they essentially are completing their mission statement, and they're not going to be making a loss because the Model Y and the new Model S and the Roadster and the Tesla semi truck are making gangbuster profits. So it doesn't necessarily matter. All they need is a small production line, and if they simplify the vehicle's manufacture, they could easily do 15, 20,000 vehicles per year, and it's still viable, in my opinion. Yes, yeah, and I did a really good video with To the Future. Sebastian and Jishwen, great video. I don't know if you've seen it on my channel, on my Twitter feed, and we talked about tunnels on Mars. Potentially, that would be very, very useful because the idea of terraforming Mars is at least 600 years away. So in the meantime, most people are either going to be living in lava tubes or underground or moving around in tunnels linking settlements. So TBMs will be very important. Yeah, I agree. I think it's very much dependent on the number of passengers in an autonomous electric vehicle, so that added weight will have a big difference. Also, the high speeds will increase energy consumption, and also those vehicles are going to be accelerating very, very hard to get into the system, and also they'll be using the roads in and around city centres and things like that, so they'll probably be travelling at slow speeds going through traffic lights. So I think it's difficult to say it's going to be 700, 800 miles for a 300 kilowatt hour pack. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but I think it'll be closer to 500 miles in my personal opinion. Yeah, it looks horrible, and if you live next to a busy road, the emissions certainly here in the UK are really terrible because we have a lot of diesel vehicles here in the UK, and the air is terrible. Yeah, I agree. I think they potentially might use the Cybertruck chassis for the Boeing company AEV. That would save a lot of money, and they should definitely do it at the Texas Gigafactory or Terrafactory. Yeah, I agree. And also, in addition to that, you can have low rolling resistant tyres. You can also use the polished concrete road decks like I've talked about in a previous video. And potentially you can have the vehicle adjust its shape to increase the efficiency. So you could potentially lower the suspension, maybe 50 mil, and lower the vehicle all the way down. Again, that would improve the aerodynamic efficiency and the drag coefficient of the vehicle. Yes, it is. Everything that Elon does is interconnected. If you've ever listened to Warren Redlick connects all the dots. That's why I love Warren Redlick, because everything that he talks about is all interconnected. He can see it, I can see it, other people like Galileo Russell can see it, Steve Mark Ryan, so many people can see all the things. In 4 or 5 years, maybe 6 years, all these things will have come together, including SpaceX, including Neuralink, including Starlink, all these things interconnected, one whole homogeneous piece. That is going to change the world. We're talking multi-trillion-dollar companies like nothing you've ever seen before. It'll make Apple and Amazon look like IBM. It really will, because everything will come together as one piece. It'll interlink Mars as well, and it's just phenomenal. Every day I wake up and read an article, I'm blown away by something. Absolutely blown away. So if the Boeing company ever does an IPO, guys, have a serious think about investing in it, because based on Tesla, what Tesla are doing, and potentially how that interlinks with the Boeing company and all the people that are working at SpaceX on TBMs, consider investing in the Boeing company. But obviously, do your research. Yeah. Tesla's mission statement is to... I couldn't really pronounce it for some reason. I was having a blank. Tesla mission statement is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. Right. I've said it 100 million times, but for some reason it won't come out. Thank you for that, Mike. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the other option for the Boring Company is that they lease the vehicles from Tesla. So you lease the vehicle, maybe you pay Tesla $600 a month for that vehicle, yeah? Tesla has billions of dollars of capital, yeah, that it needs to spend. When it's not spending on factories, it could be, spending it on building things and then loaning them out to, or leasing them out to the Boring Company. If the Boring Company is paying over $600 lease on that vehicle, they could continue to pay that lease off for maybe 8 to 10 years. It depends, because they'll be doing a lot of miles, these autonomous electric vehicles. So I imagine that if you got 8-9 years out of that vehicle, that would be pretty decent. At that point, Tesla will have easily recouped its investment, and the Boring Company will have easily been able to repay its lease, because it'll be working that machine into the ground 16 hours a day. And you can increase the fares to accommodate that, so it's not really an issue. Okay, guys, I'm going to finish in the next 2 minutes. Anyone got any quick questions? And Tesla Keeler, I love it. I love Tesla Keeler. You look a bit young to be drinking alcohol, though. No, it's not you, Paul. It must be your daughter. But I love Tesla Tequila. I love tequila, actually. But I'd love to buy some Tesla Tequila. I would probably put it on a shelf somewhere and never drink it, because I think it'd be a great collector's item. Depends how much they sell. I like that. Yes, you have. You have, mate. And we've all been saying it. And it's so obvious. But why are people going on CNBC and Yahoo? Did anyone see that interview with Galileo from Hyperchange on Yahoo Finance? Oh my days, that was the worst interview I've ever seen. They come on and this guy is like, wants to talk about all the things that Tesla has promised in the past and then missed the deadlines. And guy's like, dude, it's battery day. We want to talk about battery day, not this bullshit. And it's the greatest. It's so funny. So funny. Yes, absolutely. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining the live stream today. I was a bit worried that no one was going to turn up, but lots of people come in, lots of excellent, interesting questions. I'm going to have some great videos coming out in the next 2 weeks. I have got my mojo back. I'm going to be focusing on this channel. I love making videos. Sometimes the time just escapes me. And it's so annoying when I want to make a video and I've got 4 or 5 other things that I need to do. And I want to be talking about the Boring Company every day. Who just disliked this? And there's a whole stream, 47 likes, and someone disliked it. Why would you do that? So, anyway, I'm going to be making a lot more videos. Be ready for it. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Consider joining us on Discord. I'd love to speak to you on Discord. Join us on Instagram, Twitter. And consider supporting us on Patreon for just $2. That would really, really help us. So pleased with so many great people on Patreon. You can reach out to me whenever you want. You get specific roles in the Discord channel as well if you request them. And you can help design future videos for this channel. And maybe even if you go for the top rate Patreon tier, you could potentially feature on one of the videos on this channel and talk about any topic that you would like to talk about. So, thank you everyone for... Oh, someone disliked it again. Everyone who's joining us today. Appreciate everyone that's asked some questions. Please tune in for the next one. Love you all. Please don't be boring. I'll see you on the next video. Thank you so much. God bless you all. See you next time. Thank you.
It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum.